All right, everyone, good morning. Today we are going to talk about how to find x and y intercepts of an equation. And then we're going to learn, in addition to that, how we can use those intercepts to help us graph equations. So let's begin the first idea here of what are intercepts. So I mentioned this piece in class that intercepts, kind of like the word intercept in football, when a defender catches an offensive player's football, so offense and defense kind of collide or connect together. X-intercept is essentially where the line that we're trying to graph crosses the x-axis. So the x-intercept, let's try that again, where the line crosses the x-axis. And what that means is that the y coordinate, the y portion of the coordinate is going to be equal to 0. Therefore, you will have some number x, so that will be a number, okay? And then the y value will always be 0. Y value will always be 0, okay? So that's going to be your intercept right here. And likewise, the y-intercept, quite literally, that's almost the exact same definition, where the line crosses the y-axis instead. And therefore, the x portion of that coordinate has to equal 0. So it's going to be written always 0, comma, and then this y will actually be your intercept here. And so we're going to learn how to, number one, find those intercepts, and then secondly, we're going to graph them. So let's begin with our first example. So in example 1, we have an equation. This is in slope-intercept form. So we might be able to kind of quickly find the y-intercept if you know the little shortcut. But if not, here's what we're going to essentially do with all these questions. For x-intercept, we're going to let y equal 0. So I'm going to rewrite this equation. But instead of writing y equals 2x plus 3, I'm going to substitute and put a 0 there instead. And what I'm going to do now is solve this equation for x. So I would subtract 3 from both sides, leaving me with 2x equals -3, and I probably should move this up because I ran out of room that quickly. Let's go ahead. Oops, hold on. This is live. I'm not going to do any editing, so if I make a mistake, we're going to watch it here on YouTube. There we go. Okay. Final step is going to be divide by 2, and therefore x is going to be equal to -3/2, better known as -1.5 as a decimal. Therefore, your intercept will be written as -3/2, comma 0. We're going to do the exact same thing now for y-intercept, except the difference here is that we're going to make x equal to 0. So we're going to write y equals 2, and then where x used to be, I'm going to leave that blank, because what we're going to do now is we're going to make x equal to 0 instead. Nice thing with this is y is already by itself. So 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 3, well, it's just 3. And like I said before, I went ahead and didn't give myself enough room, so let's do that. So therefore, the y-intercept here would be 0, comma 3. So these are going to be our two intercepts here. And what we're going to be able to do now is use those to graph the equation. So moving over to the coordinate plane, you guys should have 6 blank coordinate planes for these problems here that we're going to do. So question number 1, we're going to graph here. The first point we're going to plot is -3/2, comma 0. So that's -1.5, comma 0. So that's going to put me right here on the x-axis. And then my y-intercept is 0, comma 3. And quite literally, those 2 points, all you need is 2 points to make a line. And just like that, we have our first graph. Let's move on to another example. So for the second example, we have just the simple equation y equals x. So just like the first example, we're going to, for our x-intercept, let y equal 0. So we're going to put a 0 where y used to be. And we're going to make x, well, x. And just like that, we're solved. Wow, that was quick and easy. Therefore, when x is equal to 0, y is also equal to 0 in this situation. And then with the second one here, we're going to have y equals, and then instead of writing x, we're going to also put 0. Well, boy, this was super easy. This is the one situation where the x-intercept and the y-intercept are actually the exact same point. This would be at 0, comma 0. So if I go to my graph paper over here and I can plot 0, 0, only problem with this is the only equation this will ever happen with, where the intercepts are at the same place. We don't have a second point. So this is where we'd have to look at this and say, oh, well, the number in front of x is a 1, since it's in slope-intercept form. It can essentially be written as y equals 1x plus 0. Therefore, we know that it has a slope of 1. So I can use my slope-intercept trick that we learned from the last section, and we can still graph the line. Okay, so those are our first two examples. The next two examples are going to also be special cases that we are going to deal with, and that's situations when you have x equal a number and y equal a number. And remember, a reminder for these two equations, what this essentially means is that when x is equal to 3, x is always equal to 3. Therefore, the y-intercept, when it says y equals 0, y will be 0, x has to equal 3, therefore 3 comma 0 is your intercept. However, for the y-intercept, it says let x equal 0. Well, I can't let x equal 0 since x is equal to 3. Therefore, there is no no y-intercept. There's no y-intercept in this graph. So whenever x is equal to 3, you can draw a point. That's what this equation is telling me. So for number 3, whenever x is equal to 3, whenever x is equal to 3, whenever x is equal to 3, that's a vertical line. X equals a number always is a vertical line because that's everywhere where x is allowed to equal 3. And if we follow this same logic now for y equals -2, what we'll learn here is that we can't let y equal 0 since y must equal -2. Therefore, there is no y-intercept for this graph, or sorry, no x-intercept. However, the y-intercept can certainly be when I let x equal 0, it's going to be 0 comma -2. So when we graph this one, which is number 4 on our notes, 0 comma -2 we can plot here. Anywhere where y is equal to -2 we can draw a line, and therefore here's our next line. We have one more example we're going to do together, and then we're going to give you a couple to practice. And this is probably the most involved one, and this is dealing with standard form. This is going to be the most efficient way to graph in standard form. So let me write this down. The most efficient way to graph an equation in standard form is to use intercepts. Okay? Slope-intercept form, we've talked a lot about how to graph that very easily. Standard form is really difficult to graph unless you move it into slope-intercept form. So if you want to save yourself the agony of doing that, what we can do is do the intercepts method. So I'm going to first, to find the x-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for y, so 2x plus 3, and then once again, I'm going to leave that blank, equals -6. And so in the place of y, I'm going to go ahead and put that 0 there. So when I simplify this, we're going to have 2x. 3 times 0 is just 0, so I don't have to write that. And then I can divide both sides by 2. So x is going to be equal to -3. Therefore, my x-intercept is going to be -3 comma 0. So there it is. There's my first one. And then to do this for the y-intercept, we're going to let x equal 0. So in this case, it's going to be 2 times blank plus 3y equals -6. And then in the place of x, we're going to put a 0 there now. So when I simplify this, 2 times 0 is just 0. So we're left with just 3y equals -6. Divide both sides by 3. We're going to get y equals -2. Therefore, my intercept here is going to be 0 comma -2. So if we follow this process for this example, this is going to make our graphing very simple now because all I have to do is graph these 2 points and we're done. So -3 comma 0 would put me right here on the x-axis. That's the x-intercept. And then 0, -2 is my y-intercept. So there we go. Connect those points and we have ourselves another line. All right. So there are 5 examples here in all different forms that you're going to look at. We're going to focus mostly on standard form for today's lesson for your practice. So we're going to go ahead and have you pause the video now, and I'm going to have you try these 2 examples. Find the x-intercept, find the y-intercept, and then plot your points. So pause this now. All right, welcome back. So if we're going to now find the x-intercept, what we're going to do is we're going to make y equals 0. Okay, so if I solve this, this is going to become 2x plus 5. I'm going to stop using red just to save time so you don't have to keep watching this video. 5 times 0, that's going to go away. So you get 2x equals -10. Divide by 2, we get x equals -5. So my x-intercept is negative 5 comma 0. Then we're going to do our y-intercept where x is equal to 0. So it's going to be 2 and then 0 for x plus 5y equals negative 10. Again, this is going to go away. We're going to go, that's a 5. 5y equals negative 10. Divide by 5. Those are gone. Y equals negative 2. So this is going to be 0 comma negative 2. Those 2 points now that we just found are going to have to go on my graph here. So negative 5 comma 0 goes here. 0 negative 2 goes here. And connect those dots. There's our first line. Okay, so we've graphed it in standard form. Secondly, second example, if we do the same thing now, if we do x-intercept, and that means let y equal 0, it's going to be x minus 2, parentheses 0, equals 4. That's all going to go away, and literally x is equal to 4. So the point is 4 comma 0. We'll graph that in a moment. For y-intercept, we're going to, again, let x equal 0. So it's going to be 0 minus 2y equals 4. The 0 essentially goes away. So negative 2y equals 4. Divide by negative 2. Okay, and your point's going to be 0, negative 2. So 4 comma 0, 0, negative 2. Connect those dots, and we are finished. There's our 2 graphs for these in standard form. So in summary, the most important thing I want you to take away from this video are 2 things as we wrap up. X-intercepts is where the line crosses the x-axis. Y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, and you notice that we set the other variable equal to 0. The second thing I want you to learn is that if you were asked to graph something in standard form, the most efficient way, the easiest way to graph something in standard form is to use these intercepts. So that will conclude this video. You guys will have a couple additional practice problems to work on, and I will provide a key for you to check those answers. Thank you for watching, and good luck.